I'd like to invite Sergeant Drew Remington to come forward to lead us in the pledge. If we'd all stand and face the flag.
Salute. Arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready? Two.
And we'd like to begin with a recognition of our veterans. Whereas in 1921, the unknown soldier was buried on a Virginia hillside in Arlington Cemetery, overlooking the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. The site of this burial in Arlington National Cemetery symbolizes the dignity and reverence for American veterans. And whereas these memorial gestures took place in England and France on November 11th, giving universal recognition to the celebrated ending of World War I at 11 a.m. on November 11th, 1918. And whereas on May 13th, 1938, Congress declared that the 11th day of November each year will be a legal holiday, a day to be dedicated to the cause of world peace, and a day of celebration to honor America's veterans for their patriotism, the love of their country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. And whereas Veterans Day is largely intended to thank our veterans for their service and to acknowledge their contributions to our national security and to honor all those who have served and sacrificed for our country. And whereas Veterans Day is to thank all of our veterans for their service to our country and to acknowledge their contributions to our national security, we would like to honor those who have served and sacrificed for our country today, November 11th, and every day. And whereas the City of Roswell is proud to acknowledge our veterans who are employed by the city, now therefore I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2010 as Veterans Day in the City of Roswell and urge all of our citizens to recognize their sacrifices and the dedication of our veterans today and throughout the year. And could I have all of the veterans in the room stand? Let's have a hand for these veterans. Let's thank you very much. And I see we have some folks in uniform and some folks in the VFW. Does anyone wish to come forward to address the council? Gentlemen, come forward and take the microphone is yours.
Excuse me. First, I would just like to say thanks for the opportunity to be recognized and for the city's participation in several of the veterans events and military events. And I guess I'd like to just also say that thank you very much. This is also I'm the commander of the VFW here in Roswell. My name is Bill Midieu, and this is our commander for the Roswell American Legion. And some of y'all don't realize it, but the two posts have kind of joined forces here lately. And so we're now all in one roof, one-stop shop, and whatever area you are, please come on by and see us. And
well, on behalf of Roswell's American Legion Post 319, I'd like to thank the citizens of Roswell, City Council, Mr. Mayor, for all the support you've given us over the years, and I appreciate the proclamation this evening.
And I'm encouraged to see that the VFW and the American Legion have joined forces. Y'all, there's a lot to be gained in working with other folks, and I encourage you to, and I think you're going to have a great relationship. So I'm good to see. One more hand for the veterans. I'd like to invite Bishop Riggers to come forward. I've got a proclamation to read. And then we'll recognize Bishop Riggers with the Church of Latter-day Saints. And we're recognizing Family Month. Whereas the City of Roswell recognizes the family as the fundamental unit of society and an essential part of cultural, social, and the spiritual fabric that comprises our community. And whereas throughout Roswell's history, families have been the foundation of our society and the source of stability and love for every generation. And whereas strong families teach children to live moral lives and help us to pass down the values that define a caring society, families provide children with encouragement, support, and love they need to become confident, compassionate, and successful members of society. And whereas upholding the timeless values that have sustained our social order throughout history will result in the enhancement in health and security of Roswell's families. And whereas spending more family time together facilitates the development of positive and open relationships between parents and children, these relationships help parents encourage their children to make positive choices. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim November 2010 as Family Month in the City of Roswell and urge all of our citizens to spend more time with their family and strengthen the relationship between parents and children. And Bishop Riggers, the microphone is yours. Welcome to Roswell. Let me hand you this proclamation before you go, and I understand that after that you'd like the council to come down and get a picture taken with you, and I think you've got some members of your congregation that can come up. You want to invite them all up here?
Yes. Would everybody like to come on up? Oh, thank you.
Come on, folks.
Come on, don't be shy. As they're coming on up, I just wanted to say I'm Bishop Riggers of the local congregation, the Roswell congregation of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Families are very important to us. I'm not going to go into a lot of religious discussion here because this is a city council meeting, but for a various number of reasons we think that families can be together forever, that they're eternal, and that it's important to have those kind of bonds. As we recognize the traditional family of mother and father and children, we realize that there are a number of different family situations. There are single people that have never had children, people that maybe are divorced and have families, a variety of different situations. But there are things that people can do all the time to strengthen those relationships. Even if you don't have a family close to you, you can always join with a neighbor or join with other people that like to do it. If you listen to the proclamation that Mayor Wood just gave, he mentioned that spending time with the family is very important. And I just want to take just really a few minutes to talk about some things that we can do. And we'd like to challenge everyone here, and also members of my congregation as well, to do these things if they're not already doing them over the next few weeks. First of all, try to eat together one meal a day as a family. Think of mealtime as a celebration. If you've made it through the day, or if you've had a difficult day, or just that you've been able to get through and you've had good things happen, make it a celebration. Plan for quality communication when you sit around. I know I'm an empty nester now with my wife, and sometimes we sit around and look at one another. It's not too late to think of things to talk about and to plan things to talk about. And then create mealtime traditions. I know of one family, when they sit down to dinner, the father goes around and pats each of the kids on the head and gives a kiss to his wife. A great tradition to start as a family. The other thing that's an encouragement for this next week, okay? The week after, we'd like everyone to spend one evening with your family as a family night. So it can be an evening, or it can be a Saturday or something like that. Write emails or letters or communicate with family members. Research a topic you want to learn more about, something you want to learn more about, maybe home repair or the veterans or the great services they provided in wars. And learn about things together as a family. And invite other people to join with you for games or movies or something like that. And then finally, the last one is a little bit more challenging. We'd like to encourage everyone to think about setting some goals as a family. Sit down and think about things. In this economy that we have now, it's a good idea to sit down and talk about budget and money, and can we afford a vacation, and what do we need to do in order to plan a vacation. And talk about scheduling and events that you've got coming up, and work together with one another. Families can be a wonderful support to one another, and I know that I value my own family for the emphasis that they put on education and helping me with my schooling. That's what we can do as parents and also as children, help one another to be better educated. Thank you for attention, and I hope that we can all pursue these goals over the next month and be better families, and through better families have a better society. Thank you.
All right, Polly, we'll start over again. Our next proclamation is regarding the homeless, and I think we forget the homeless families here in North Fulton County, so we want to follow up with the awareness of that. And we're declaring this also is the Homeless Awareness Month. Whereas every year during the month of November, agencies throughout the country emphasize education and awareness of the children and families in our communities who are homeless. And whereas Homeless Awareness Month serves to focus and heighten attention on the existence and needs of homeless children, individuals, and families. And whereas the most recent homeless census count documented 169 homeless individuals and families in North Fulton living in shelters, and more than 500 families in North Fulton who had sought transitional housing assistance this year. And whereas there are hundreds more children, individuals, and families who are the hidden homeless, undocumented, and living in overcrowded dwellings, hotels, cars, and other places not suitable as shelters. And whereas in an effort to rescue children, individuals, and families from homelessness, local services and housing agencies, including Homestretch Housing Initiative of North Fulton, the Drake House, Habitat for Humanity, North Fulton Community Charities, and Find a Way Home, partner with local churches and educational agencies in the city of Roswell to help and return these individuals to a safe, stable, and permanent housing. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the city of Roswell, declare the month of November 2010 as Homeless Awareness Month in the city of Roswell. And with that, we'd like to invite you to the microphone.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Wood and council members. On behalf of the organizations before you, we represent the Continuum of Care of North Fulton. My name is Rose Burton. I'm with Homestretch, the Housing Initiative of North Fulton, and also joining me is John Smith from the Drake House, Betty May from Habitat for Humanity, Vonda Malbrough, representing North Fulton Community Charities, and Aaron Fortney from Find a Way Home. These are the 5 primary partners who work together to serve the homeless in our community and help them regain housing, stability, and self-sufficiency. North Fulton Community Charities provides emergency assistance to keep families and individuals in their homes during short-term emergencies and crisis situations so that it does not escalate to homelessness. If North Fulton Community Charities is not able to support the family and prevent the homelessness, the Drake House would then offer 90 days of emergency residential housing for homeless women and children, along with a comprehensive program of education and services to assist and return the families to stable housing. Homestretch would then guide a homeless family with minor children toward increased self-reliance and stability by providing life skills training, mentoring, and supportive housing for up to 24 months. This allows the family time and tools they need to get back on their feet. Habitat for Humanity would then step in. Habitat for Humanity North Central Georgia is a Christian housing ministry with the purpose of building and refurbishing homes with partner families, where they sell the homes at no profit and no interest to families who could not otherwise afford a home. Then finally, Find a Way Home, for those who would not be eligible for home ownership, would work with families. They believe that everyone has the right to live in the community that they serve. By providing affordable housing, financial literacy, and education, as well as a dedicated mentor, they work hard to help families learn to budget, live within their means, pay down debt, improve their credit, establish savings, and ultimately transition into homeownership at an affordable market rate rent. We're proud to partner together to combat homelessness in North Fulton, not just during the month of November, but all year long. We also are tireless advocates for the creation and preservation of safe, decent, and affordable housing in our community. We work hard as a continuum to provide care for those in need. However, despite our collective and greatest efforts, there are still gaps and many needs go unaddressed. Recently, the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness published their strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness. This plan offers strategies to fill the gaps that we experience in North Fulton, specifically 2. Single adults, both men and women, who become homeless. Then that group includes our veterans and youth who age out of foster care. The second area is insufficient availability of affordable housing and services for the numbers of families and individuals in need. So we look forward to hearing more in the days ahead about how we as a community might increase leadership, collaboration, and civic engagement to fulfill the American vision that no one should experience homelessness and no one should be without a safe, stable place to call home. So again, we thank you for proclaiming November 2010 as Homeless Awareness Month in the city of Roswell, and for helping us to raise awareness of the work that is being done and the work that is yet to be done to help the homeless families, individuals, parents, and children in our community. We thank you.
Rose Burton, I want to thank you on behalf of the city for the Housing Initiative North Fulton and what you do. And I want to thank Homestretch, the Drake House, Habitat for Humanity, North Fulton Community Charities, and Find a Way Home for all that you do to help our citizens who are having tough times. And I'd like to ask everyone in this room to give these organizations a hand for all that they do. Thank you.
Mayor Wood, if you would, not to prolong things, but if we might also have the pleasure of a photo.
Absolutely. My council loves a photo op.
Thank you.
If we join these folks.
2, 3. I'm going to take a couple. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you. One more hand for these folks. Councilmember Wynn is insisting that she get her photograph taken with Drew Remington and all these other distinguished veterans. So, gentlemen, if you can come forward and get your picture taken with Councilmember Wynn, and I'm sure the rest of us would be glad to be in that photo. So, if you'll come forward, please.
Do 2 lines, kind of stagger. Okay. Look. You're rich over just a little bit. There you go.
Thank you. Let's have another hand.
I'm not sure she admit to it. I'd have to let that somebody did to me.
This time I'd like to call the Roswell Alpharetta Mountain Biking Club to come forward. All you gentlemen, my favorite organization in the city of Roswell, in which I am a... Come on, gentlemen, I want all of Rambo up here. I don't see anybody in Lycra or in baggies, but that's all right.
Thank you, Mayor Wood, City Council members, for having us tonight. My name is Brad Winder, and I'm the president of the Roswell Alpharetta Mountain Bike Organization, or Rambo as we go by. A number of years ago, the city of Roswell bought property over at Big Creek that became Big Creek Park, with plans someday for the development of parts of it, but they were gracious enough to let our organization start building trails over there for bikers. The trails have been used for a number of years without any regard to proper trail building or rules or regulations, and we have tried over the years to bring some order to that. And I have some slides tonight to go over a little bit about what we do over at Big Creek, and for some of you who may not know. Rambo is a chapter of the International Mountain Biking Association, and here in the Southeast, part of the Southern Off-Road Biking Association. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, officially chartered organization, and our membership is 100% volunteers, with the idea of representing mountain bikers in the North Fulton, North Atlanta area. Big Creek is Roswell's only mountain bike trail, and it's very exciting to see new folks come out, families and such, younger kids, with the idea of exercising, getting out of the house, getting out in the woods, exercising and being fit, because a lot of people are very sedentary these days. So we're trying to promote a healthy, safe, natural environment for biking as well as walking and running on these trails. We've also done some surveys, and we've determined that 94% of the folks that visit Big Creek Park are there for mountain biking. These are some of the things that we have at Big Creek on an annual basis. We have a spring and a fall festival. The fall festival being the 4 Ways in a Day. We have a summer time trial series this year that we had abandoned for several years back, but brought it back with some excellent results on a after work once a month in June, July, and August, with about 50 folks showing up each night for just non-competitive but personal best time trial racing. We have some running races out there, as we did this past weekend, with over 350 folks registered. We cleared off the trails at Big Creek on Friday, and we sponsored or really chaperoned a running series that moves around from trail to trail in the northern part of the state, and had excellent turnout. The weather was great, and I think everybody had a really good time. We also have bike companies that want to do demo days out at our trails, and they bring out the newest innovations they have in bikes to show the public what they're building and to try and increase awareness of their product and get people, obviously, to buy their product. We're also fixing to start a night ride program again this year, which will be our 5th year, I believe, in that. And that is a City of Roswell Park and Rec program that members have to sign up through Park and Rec to participate in this, and we have 18 night rides this year. Stipulations, obviously, you have to have a helmet, you need a good night light, but it's a whole lot different out there riding the trails at nighttime than it is during the day, and we really enjoy it. As far as the building of the trails, they didn't just happen by themselves. Neil Wagner is our trail director, and a lot of effort and work goes into building sustainable trails that will require a minimal of maintenance down the road. We take the numbers and register people when we're having our regular work sessions, and we've determined that we've had, in the last several years, over 7,500 hours of labor performed by volunteers at Big Creek Park. IMBA, the International Mountain Biking Association, uses a standard of $17 an hour for labor, and that comes to, in our figures, a little over $127,000 worth of sweat equity that we've put into Big Creek. We've also done surveys this past summer, which required a lot of work at the trailhead. We had 254 responses. We determined that 64% of the visitors, when they come to Big Creek, stop at other local area stores, restaurants, and gas stations to make expenditures, and they average $54 per person per month. And we estimate that Big Creek gets about 3,000 visitors per month, which means income to the surrounding businesses and tax revenue, hopefully, to Roswell, the sales of over $1.5 million a year. Once again, we want to thank the city for allowing us to use this property for the benefit of Roswell residents and area residents alike. It's not what I would consider a destination trail, but it's an urban trail system, and we make the most of what we can on the property that's available to us. It's very easy to get to Big Creek for many people after they get off work on weekdays and such, and the parking lot often is quite full. I hope that each of y'all from time to time get to swing by there and to see all the people that are having such a good time down there. Also, obviously, it's an entrance way to the Greenway, which a lot of people are using these days also to access further up towards our sister city in Alpharetta, and to bike, roller skate, walk dogs, and other activities. So everything leads to people being outside and enjoying themselves. Thank you very much for your time.
Brad Winder, on behalf of the city, I want to thank Rambo for the trails that is built on that park and the program that is developed on that park. I think if you look at the number of people that are participating in a healthy activity on that park, the cost effectiveness of Rambo exceeds probably just about anything else the city does. Because, Joe, how much does it cost us to have mountain biking on that trail? 0. Well, it's hard to beat that for cost effectiveness. So I want to thank Rambo, and I encourage Joe to get all of our programs that effective in the future. Thank you for coming. Let's have a hand for Rambo.
Thank you.
We have, next is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Orleans. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Nancy Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions regarding the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Next, I'll call... we've got two nominations. We've got nomination of Sidney Dodd to the Planning Commission. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve that nomination by Becky Wynn. Do I have a second? Second by Nancy Diamond. All in favor, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Next, I have a nomination of Herman Howard to serve on the Design Review Board. Do I have a motion? Motion by Councilman Eichelhardt. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Councilman Orleans. All in favor of that motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. At this time, I'll call upon Councilmember Betty Price.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item is CU 10-04 and CV 10-02, located at 11,000 Alpharetta Highway, Andretti Indoor Karting and Games. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this is a conditional use application with a concurrent variance. This application is requesting to be deferred to the December 13th, 2010 Mayor and Council meeting. It was heard by the Planning Commission at their November 16th meeting. It will be heard at the Planning Council at their November 16th meeting. The Planning Commission requested an additional noise survey or study to be done, which has been completed, and that information will be presented at the Planning Commission and then brought forward to the Mayor and Council at their December 13th meeting.
Is there anyone here tonight who came here to be heard on the Andretti Indoor Karting application? There is a motion to defer. This will be coming back for a public hearing if the council moves to defer, but if you'd like to be heard tonight, we'll hear from you. You'll give us your name and address, please.
Mayor, Council, my name is Jan Lotz. I'm the Executive Director at Chambrel Roswell. Chambrel sits at the corner of Mansell and House. Chambrel is a retirement community for seniors. We've been there for 23 years on beautiful 35 acres. It's very quiet. It's very serene. Our residents are able to sit on their porches and their patios in the evening. It's just very quiet. With an outdoor track, it's going to bring noise. It's going to bring increased traffic to that area, and I would really hate to see that happen. I've been at Chambrel for 15 years, and it's just a very, very quiet, serene atmosphere, and our residents come there to retire and just enjoy life, and I would certainly hate to see that happen.
Thank you for coming tonight. I would encourage you to come back when we have the public hearing, if this council does not defer, if the council does defer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Do we have a motion?
Yes, I move that we defer this item to the December 13th, 2010 meeting.
Motion for deferral by Councilmember Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Any further discussion? Yes, Councilmember Wynn.
I have one question. On the second noise study, was Chambrel part of that study?
Yes, there was.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The next item is RZ10-08, text amendment regarding a revision to Chapter 10.39, sidewalk cafes, and this is the first reading. Mr. Brad Townsend.
Thank you. This is a proposed text amendment to the sidewalk cafes. We are proposing to amend the current ordinance that includes a 3-foot clear zone to increase that to a 5-foot, as well as a requirement for the barrier used for any sidewalk cafe to meet ADA requirements. The Planning Commission as well as staff recommends approval of the proposed text amendment on first reading.
Do our sidewalk cafes all meet this 5-foot ordinance at this
Currently
time?
in compliance, yes, sir.
Everybody's in compliance, so it's not going to require any change in the current setup for these sidewalk cafes.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Councilmember Price?
And that goes as well for the ADA barrier?
I believe there might be some that may have to add a second chain to meet the ADA requirements. We'll be checking on that as soon as this passes.
And will they have a time frame with which to comply? Or?
We would send code enforcement, and usually they give them sufficient time to comply.
I just have one other question regarding the applicability. In the final page of the Planning Commission minutes, it says it only applies along Canton Street. Are there no other places in the city where this does or might apply?
The only places that allow for public encroachment of a sidewalk is along Canton Street.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion.
Move to approve.
Please read it.
An ordinance of the City of Roswell amending the zoning ordinance, Article 10, specific use requirement, dealing with the sidewalk cafe development standards and criteria. Whereas zoning is an exercise of police power to promote the public health, safety, morality, or general welfare, whereas the mayor and council have determined that Article 10 should be amended to clarify and define the development standards. Now, therefore, amending Section 10.39.5, Development Standards and Criteria, in order to protect the public health, safety, convenience, and general welfare of the surrounding uses, sidewalk cafes shall be subject to the following criteria. A, the operation of such sidewalk cafe seating areas shall be conducted in such a way as not to interfere with the circulation of pedestrian or vehicular traffic on the adjoining streets or sidewalks. There shall be a minimum of 5 feet of clear distance. The minimum 5-foot requirement will be measured and maintained when chairs and tables are occupied. The sidewalk cafe dining area shall be located adjacent to the building facade and enclosed by a barrier or a post and chain configuration in compliance with ADA requirements, with the 5-foot clear pedestrian passage provided between the dining area and the edge of the pavement.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Price for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Eichelhardt. Council Orleans. Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The next item is RC10-01R, Metropolitan River Review Application for 8015 Holcomb Bridge Road, Holcomb Bridge Associates Limited, land lots 885 and 934. Mr. Townsend?
Yes, this is a proposed Metropolitan River Protection Certification for a single-family home to be located next to the existing home on the property. The Atlanta Regional Commission has reviewed this application and finds it consistent with the river corridor. This is a map showing the proposed location of the house in the diagonal hatched area box there. The Community Development Department recommends approval of this application with the one condition dealing with a division plat to be approved and submitted prior to the issuance of the single-family home for construction. In summary, staff would recommend approval of this certification.
A division plat would be required regardless?
Regardless.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I do have a question. This Metropolitan River Protection Act certificate, who issues that, or how does that come about?
The council is required to issue it after review of consistency by the Atlanta Regional Commission.
So that is an act that we actually do.
Yes.
Okay.
Councilman Orleans.
Brad, just out of curiosity, if the new lot where the new house is going to be, why is it configured so weird?
I think Mr. Gerard is here.
Just curious.
Just wanted to block the view. Is that what you mean? Oh, that.
Would you like do you want an answer? Was that a rhetorical question, or?
If he would like to come up and answer it, that's fine. It was kind of a rhetorical question, just looking at the site plan, the strange shape of the lot, but it has nothing to do with the issue here, really.
I'm not sure that's the...
Well, if it has nothing to do with the issue, maybe we'll just move right along. We have a Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Price. Is there a second? Do we have any questions? Other than rhetorical questions. Does anyone in the audience wish to be heard on this? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The next item is approval of a resolution of barriers for 2 abandoned subdivisions. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this item was discussed at committee. We have 2 abandoned subdivisions in which the city would like to have control and put a barrier across the end of them so illegal dumping as well as trespassing does not occur in these subdivisions. The resolution has been redrafted by legal counsel related to the comments at committee. It is before you this evening. Staff would recommend approval of the proposed resolution.
Any questions for Mr. Townsend? Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to recognize, I believe in attendance is Mr. Sam Evans, who brought this to our attention, and with his diligence, we're going to hopefully make sure that this is not a safety issue to anybody who should come upon these entrances that are blocked. With that said, I move to approve that resolution.
Motion by Councilmember Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhart. Mr. Evans, I know you asked to be heard on this matter.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, I'm Sam Evans. I live at 150 Chafin Road. It's always good to find out how resolutions take place. Well, I'm fixing to tell you about this resolution. I'm an engineer, and I take my granddaughters to Roswell High School, and I go up Coleman Street or Drive, whatever it is, let her out at the cemetery, and I happen to look down at this subdivision called Coleman Farms. And now this is in the daylight, and I'm looking down there, and I see something. It looks like the road's closed, and I see a line. I don't know what the line is, so after I let my granddaughters out, I go and I drive down there. And what it is, it's a wire from pole to pole across that across Cochran Farm Road. I went by there at dusk that night, and that wire disappears. You can't see it. And I'm thinking about, here's a street that children ride on their bicycles, and they go down that road, they're going to hit that wire. Cars maybe drive down in the evening. They hit the wires too, and they did hit the wire. So, as an engineer, I contacted my colleague, Eisenbeck, and he immediately put up a barrier, one barrier, black and white barrier, and says, road closed. Just like that. Can you believe that the city of Roswell worked that fast? Well, the next day, I issued a couple of samograms to Dr. Price and Ms. Diamond. And I want to thank Dr. Price and Ms. Diamond because they're the ones that got in here and pushed for this resolution to take place. Now, I know that y'all have seconded the resolution, and I encourage y'all to vote on this resolution because what it means is that the barriers are going to be put up in front of these wires that are dangerous. And what I'm talking about here is a case where a private citizen deals with engineers of Roswell, deals with the Roswell City Councils, and things happen. And I want to thank you all, and especially Dr. Price and Ms. Diamond, for making this happen, and Colonel Eisenbach. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for bringing that to discussion. Does anyone else in the audience want to be heard on this matter? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. This time I'll call upon Councilmember Becky Lynn on to the Environmental Public Works Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the Environmental Public Works agenda tonight is approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with O'Brien and Gear for energy assurance planning consultant service for the city's Local Energy Assurance Program in an amount not to exceed $94,000. Mr. Mooring.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. This is a consulting contract to assist with the development of the Local Energy Assurance Plan. This is being paid from a grant from the Department of Energy for this project. As you know, that we had submitted a competitive proposal, and this was the only one received in the state of Georgia. We issued an RFP in July and received 4 proposals. The 2 top firms were selected for further presentations following the APWA qualifications-based selection process. Based on that process, the review committee selected the firm of O'Brien & Gear for this project. The funds would be in the amount of $94,000, and they are in the cost center that's designated, fully funded by the DOE grant. That would normally be my report. However, I know that you have had some questions, so I'm happy to take questions, or I can provide you a little further detail about the selection process if that is your interest, but I know that you always like me to be brief.
Mr. Mooring, I'm looking at this pros and cons list, and I'm interested to know what kind of weight the emergency management part of it was given. I realize it's items on each of them, but that would seem to be fairly important, not knowing anything about seriously about how this works.
Yes, ma'am. There were 10 members of the review committee. They represented 6 of the city departments. They were their department heads, representatives on the sustainability task force, and each of them prepared an evaluation of the proposals that were submitted, and these statements were culled from those evaluation forms. Each person made their own determination of what were the critical factors, and then ultimately selected one firm or the other as their recommended firm. I say all that to say that none of the factors was weighted more or less than any others. It was a judgment of the individual committee member, and there wasn't any external weighting provided.
Mr. Mayor, I can make a motion at this time. I know there's some people in the audience that would like to speak on this subject, but I'd like to make a comment first before I make my motion. I did sit with staff, and we did review the written and the oral interviews on both companies. We had about an hour and a half meeting. Am I correct, Stu? About an hour and a half meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think this is going to be based on the written proposals and the oral interviews, I believe that O'Brien & Gear is really the best suited company to do the LEAP program for the city of Roswell. So my motion is to accept staff's recommendation of O'Brien & Gear.
We have a motion to approve staff recommendation. Is there a second? Second, that comes from Ms. Alito. I know we have folks in the audience who wish to be heard on this matter. If you'd like to be heard, come forward, give your name and address if you're representing one of the companies in the bid.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the mayor and council for giving me the opportunity to make some comments on this recommendation that's on the agenda.
My name is Jim Trobaugh. I'm a citizen of Roswell, have been living here for over 34 years. I live at 205 Hollyberry Lane. I'm also regional manager for an office that we have established for energy planning consultants, which is located also here in Roswell. I'm here to make the comments on the recommendation of the staff of awarding the contract of a local energy assurance plan to the city to the firm of O'Brien and Greer. My company submitted a proposal in accordance with RFP 10-224-B. We understood the contract would be awarded on the basis of the criteria specified in that document. However, we learned that recommendations were given to contract to O'Brien and Greer on the basis of additional information not specified in the RFP. This was presented at a work session to you and later in a memo from Mr. Mooring to the mayor and council. Mr. Robert Kistner, president of our company, and I have submitted to you in writing our response to his comments, and I'll not go further into them. And if you have any questions about them, I'll be glad to answer those. What I would like to point out at this time is some of the following information from the RFP as we understood it. How do I get this on? This is page 6 of the RFP. It said, "It is the intent of the City of Roswell to award a contract agreement to the responsible offeror whose proposal is determined in writing to be the most advantageous for the city, taking into account all the evaluation factors set forth in this RFP. No other factors or criteria shall be used in the evaluation. The City of Roswell reserves the right to reject any and all proposals submitted in response to this request." On page 8 of the RFP, said this request for proposal is solicited for the energy and emergency management consulting firms familiar with energy assurance planning. Our company has over 20 years experience doing energy assurance plans. And we are currently working for the state of Mississippi and are finishing up with the state of Delaware, developing an energy assurance plan, which is being sponsored by DOE and funded by ARRA. So we are familiar with the process. We are familiar with all the agencies that are involved in this project. On page 20 of the RFP, it said award of this contract shall be made to the responsible offerors whose proposal is determined to be the most advantageous for the city, taking into account all the evaluation factors set forth in this RFP. No other factors or criteria shall be used in the evaluation. The City of Roswell reserves the right to reject any and all proposals. Also on page 25, there is a statement in here regarding the evaluation criteria, and this was in the proposal. These were the elements that we understood we were going to be chosen on, or the contract to be chosen on. This was presented to you in the work session, which was the results of the review of the proposal. You can see that there was a grading for each element based on experience, clients, the personnel that we have, and so forth. It's all specified there. One thing we observed, there was no total put in this document to show you who was the number one firm as far as the written proposal was concerned. If you look at the evaluation, you will find that our company had 119 points. The company that was recommended had 97 points. And as I said earlier, in the proposal, there was nothing in there that said any other criteria would be used to select the contractor. So it's really puzzling to me why we were not recommended by staff. This is a very complex process. It's a very difficult thing to get into, and if you don't have the experience to do it, you're really going to be in trouble. And I just have a hard time understanding why you would want to select a company that has never done this before. To my understanding, we haven't been able to find where they've done it before. We don't know of any cities that they've done it for, or states, and yet they were selected over us where we have done it over and over and over again. I've got just one quick thing I want to show you to give you an example of the quality of work that we would provide your city. You can go, what we would provide the staff in the process of developing this plan is an interaction website that staff could look at, and as we go through the planning process and developing a plan, we put daily the information that we have collected and put into the plan. It's in this plan daily. Staff could go there and see what's been accomplished. Council could go there and see what's been accomplished. We have a ID password and a password so that it is secured information. But this is just an example. This is what we're doing over in Mississippi. And what you do is you can click on any part of the outline and come up with where we are, what's been written, what's been done. Another interesting, I think, great thing about what we can do for you is the tools that we provide council and staff. Really, we have an outage tracking system, and which would involve the electric power distribution for the city. If there's a problem, then they can go to this site and find out what's going on. We have what's called a dashboard that will be provided to the city, and they can go online or they can use their cell phone, and if there's some type of emergency, they can go to this site and find out where the resource is to help solve the problem they're facing. Anyway, this is just an example of the things that we do. We're currently doing it, like I said, in Mississippi. I just got back from there from last week, and we know what we're doing. And I just think that we need to take a hard look as a citizen. I want to make sure Roswell has the best plan. If something happens, and it's all possible, we've seen all the stuff going on today. It could be storms, it could be terrorists or whatever, but I want this city to be prepared so that if something does happen, we can take care of it. Thank you.
Please turn on your microphone. Thank you.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Trobo? Councilman Price. Councilmember Price.
Mr. Trobo, would you put up that slide again that showed the comparison and the numbers?
I think you'll see we were ahead of everybody in just about every category that was listed. And I said, maybe I missed something in reading the RFP, but this is what I thought we were going to be judged on. We went to the process of going through the interviews and so forth, and what I understand that came out of that, we didn't interact well with the staff, which I thought, maybe that was an age gap. I don't know, but they said there was some information that we didn't interact well, and they were worried about what we would do in the training of your employees. And how do you get a company that's never done any training as a SEAL versus one that knows what they're doing? And I think we can cross the gap of how we interact with employees. I've been working with the Rec and Park Department on a part-time basis for over 5 years. I think I interact pretty well with the staff there, so I think we can handle that. And another thing, I will be the local manager for this project, and Mr. Kistner, who has written over 60 books and articles on this subject, will be the project manager. And he's in Denver, but that doesn't mean he can't be here in less than 4 hours, which he plans to do.
Any other questions council have asked for Mr. Trobaugh? Thank you, Mr. Trobaugh. Does anyone else wish to be heard on this subject? Yes, sir. Come forward, please. If you give us your name and your address, and if you're representing someone, who that is.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is John Reedy. I'm a Vice President with O'Brien and Gear. I'm representing that firm. We're located just up the road in Alpharetta. I didn't come plan to have any presentation here tonight. We've done the proposals and the presentations. We've done them very thoroughly. And all I'm here to say is that I'd just like to oppose a few of the comments the gentleman made about our firm not having experience in this work. We have a lot of experience in this work. I'm not that familiar with his firm, so I don't know how he'd be that familiar with my firm. But I do believe staff was very thorough. I do believe we have all the experience, and we have gone through that process. And I'd be willing to take any questions you have, but just wanted to make that point.
If you could give us some specific as to the experience you've had that was questioned. In the field that was questioned.
I must say I'm caught a bit unprepared, Mayor, because I don't have the sheets that this gentleman put up, the internal evaluation sheets. They've not been made available to me. So I don't know how that information is available when this is still an open procurement process. So we do utility work for municipalities, water, wastewater facilities, everything up and down the entire East Coast, which includes emergency management assessments, utility assessments, planning, public participation, and training is a big part of what we do. So I'm not sure where these statements came from. That's all I'm saying.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Reed? Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Mooring, sir. Are you the spokesman for the city as to perhaps answer some of Mr. Trobaugh's questions as to the scoring and why the selection process was made the conclusion that it did?
Mr. Mayor, the selection process was based on both the written submittal and the oral presentations and the interaction with staff.
I guess the first question I've got is, he raised a couple of factors, is did the selection committee consider any other factors other than the criteria which was listed in the I guess, request for proposal? He raised that a couple of times. So did y'all consider any factors other than the ones that were specifically referenced in the request?
Mr. Mayor, that is the list of information that was requested as part of the initial RFP. Subsequently to the review of the written document, which is essentially like submitting a resume, and then you come in for the interview. Richard Brownlee, the purchasing manager, sent this information to the two firms who were shortlisted, and this was the information that they were asked to be prepared to address.
So the two firms that were shortlisted is the one that is the staff is
EPC
recommending,
and O'Brien and
the
Gear.
firm Mr. Troval is representing.
Yes,
Those are
sir.
the two shortlisted.
Yes, sir.
All right.
The evaluation was made on the overall suitability of the firm to undertake the work at this time for the city of Roswell. So it incorporated both the written submittal and the review of the presentation materials.
Well, I want to go back to my question. That was any criteria other than the criteria which was put forward in this request for proposal?
No, sir. It's all
no other criteria was considered other than what you listed.
What is spelled out right here.
Thank you, sir. And was the decision split or was the decision unanimous? How did the decision of all these 10 people go?
Mr. Mayor, I was one of the 10 people. I was not present at the meeting. I was sick that day. I listened to the extent that I could on telephone, but I did not vote. Richard Brownlee was present. He also did not vote. Of the remaining 8 people, 4 people voted for O'Brien and Gear, 2 people did not make a selection, and 2 people voted for energy planning consultants.
Thank you, sir. Does the council have other questions? Councilmember Diamond.
I'm interested in that part of the RFP that said the only thing we'll consider is what's in writing. Was there anything in the RFP that talked about an interview process?
Yes.
I hadn't seen that paragraph before.
.4.2, evaluation will review proposals. Additionally, the panel may, in its sole discretion, arrange a site visit or request presentations and demonstrations with one or more selected offerers. It's a pretty standard process for selection of professional consultants.
I mean, it makes sense. When I saw that paragraph,
Right.
that the only part we would consider is the part that's in writing, is what that paragraph seemed to suggest earlier. Is that just a discrepancy in our RFP, or?
Mrs. Love would like to respond.
I think, and certainly we can always work on clarifying wording, but I think the intent there related to in writing, meaning in writing in the RFP, the things set forth in the RFP, which are the technical factors, and then they submit to us in writing. But in our schedule of events, as well as the evaluation criteria, it's all delineated related to what they submit in writing, and then what interviews or additional information that the evaluation committee, on behalf of the city, may request.
Other questions? We have a motion. Does anyone else in the audience wish to be heard? We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion? We have a question.
Is any weight given in this process to Roswell business versus outside?
No, ma'am. That's not one of the criteria that was spelled out.
Any other questions or further discussion? Councilmember Price.
At one point, we deferred this because, there were some concerns about the process, and what has transpired in the interim that during a relook at this, were there any additional interviews, discussions, or?
No, ma'am. Now, this is still an open proposal, and so once the proposals are received, the only communication can be through the purchasing department. So we've not had any further communications. The committee made a determination and has not been reconvened. Nothing further. We just.
Councilmember Eichelhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the committee's process, we did ask basically the same question, that the numbers on the evaluation don't seem to add up, that the group that got more points is not being recommended. And you gave some reasons for that. I think it's probably best for all of us to hear a little bit more, perhaps, that may revisit some of that. But what were the reasons that in the end 4 were for it, 2 were not?
Yes, sir. Thank you. We compiled the evaluation sheets from each of the committee members and have summarized those. The summary of those comments breaks out primarily into 4 factors. First would be the staffing availability and backup. The EPC proposal identified 3 team members, 2 from Colorado and Mr. Trobaugh. The O'Brien and Gear proposal identified 8 team members. 4 of those team members are in the Alpharetta office. There was major concern expressed that if Mr. Kistner, the president of the firm, and the project manager should be not available, that there would be concern about how the project would be conducted, because in the course of the presentation it was made clear that the experience of the firm was his personal experience preparing these plans. There was a question raised about that concern, and Mr. Kistner said that they could incorporate part-time contracted workers. But in the proposal did not identify any additional staff people, and both of the firms indicated that no subcontractors would be used. Second, this process is the creation of an energy assurance plan for the city. As one of the factors that was identified is training of the staff. The O'Brien and Gear proposal had a much more detailed arrangement for development of the training program. They discussed at length in their presentation how that training would be set up. They would first do a pilot training to try to understand what the gaps of knowledge were with city staff, and then there was a much more robust training plan that was developed. Thirdly, the O'Brien and Gear proposal was better organized and more clear, and there was attention to detail. It identified each of the significant steps, the significant tasks. Timelines were presented for each task. The EPC's proposal had some discrepancies in the timing. We're sure that it was a typo, but they indicated that the final report would be submitted to the Department of Energy in August of 2012, but it's actually due in April of 2012. I'm sure that's a typo, but it was what was presented in the report. The proposal listed Mr. Kistner as the project manager. I am told that in the course of the discussion of the presentation, various titles were expressed, and it was not clear who would be conducting what portions of the work. Finally, the fourth item, the committee members expressed concern about EPC's openness to alternative energy technologies. 2 of the things that were specified that we wanted them to comment on were smart grid technology and biodiesel fuel. Mr. Kistner did not feel that those would be suitable for use in this setting. So I think those were the ideas that were expressed in the evaluation, and each individual sort of made their own determination how they would evaluate those factors and come to a determination of which firm they felt was best. But it was a clear 4-2 vote in favor of O'Brien and Gear.
Other questions for Mr. Moran? Further discussion before we take a vote? All in favor of the motion to approve staff's recommendation, raise their hands. It's Councilmember DiPolito, Councilmember Wynn, Councilmember Eigelhart, and Councilmember Orleans. All opposed? Councilmember Diamond. We have one person. Is she abstaining or is she thinking?
She's thinking.
Well, we'll take a short break while you think.
Well, I just have to preface my decision whenever it comes to me. That the feedback. We just received.
If it makes any difference, the vote's 5-1. So you're different. Your vote's
makes no difference.
4-1. So you're not going to change any. You're not going to change this vote, but you do have that option to think.
Well, I just have to express my dismay that we've only received this at our place this evening, and that disturbs me. So I'm going to vote against.
Motion passes 4-2. Ms. Love, does that conclude the agenda?
What city attorney's report, sir?
City attorney's report.
Mr. Mayor, there's a recommendation for closure to discuss acquisition of real estate and to discuss personnel.
We have a motion for closure. Do we have a motion for closure? I'm not going to adjourn until we get this motion. Motion by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. All in favor of the motion for closure, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We now have a work session in room 220 to discuss. Ms. Love?
The draft strategic plan for the Cultural Arts Center.
Cultural Arts Center in room 220.